Hi, VencoreWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Wednesday, November 22nd. A cold front has just pushed through the I-95 corridor. Temperatures will hold nearly steady for the next several hours. It'll turn out quite breezy this afternoon and a little bit colder than yesterday. And quite a chilly Thanksgiving Day is in store for D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, well below normal for this time of the year. High temperatures generally in the low to mid 40s on Thursday along the I-95 corridor. Remains chilly on Friday as well, a little bit below normal, and then we'll turn a little bit milder again on Saturday, back into the 50s in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Only to drop again, however. Temperatures will drop again for Sunday and Monday following the passage of another cold frontal system Saturday night. That will usher in another impressively cold air mass for this time of the year for Sunday and Monday. So we're kind of continuing this pattern that started a couple of weeks ago with cold air outbreaks followed by cold air outbreaks followed by cold air outbreaks, and generally below normal for the remainder of November. And it looks like that pattern could continue into December as well. Well, let's take a quick look at the sea surface temperature anomalies right now, because we wanted to point out the La Nina conditions that are quite obvious right here. All this blue represents colder than normal sea surface temperatures. This is the west coast of South America right here. This line is the equator right in this region right here, and this is where we look for La Nina or El Nino. La Nina, colder than normal conditions, and it looks like that's indeed set up and will continue as a La Nina winter. It looks like next few months we ought to have a continuation of generally La Nina conditions. What's kind of interesting about this sea surface temperature anomaly chart is how the southern hemisphere is quite cold, especially compared to the northern hemisphere. Again, the dividing line right here, this is the equator. Generally, blues show up in the southern hemisphere and orange or yellows representing warmer than normal conditions in the northern hemisphere. Right here along the northeast coastline, above normal conditions here, and a little cold pocket just south of Alaska. But again, the main thing I want to point out here is La Nina has set up, and looks like that'll continue for the next couple of months. Well, I wanted to pull up a map that we showed during our winter outlook, which is on the weather website, the 2017 to 2018 winter outlook. This is a typical pattern for La Nina during the winter time, and indeed is so far is holding pretty true, at least through the month of November so far. Typically, a La Nina year, you have cold air outbreaks coming from Alaska or western Canada, dropping into the northern plains. Sometimes they can advance all the way into the mid-Atlantic region, as we have seen. Typically colder than normal conditions across the northern plains, southwestern part of Canada, all the way back into Alaska. Meantime, in a La Nina winter pattern, there's often a upper level ridging either along the southeast coastline or somewhere in the south, so there tends to be some warmer than normal conditions, at least in parts of the southern U.S. And quite amazingly, actually, I'll show you in a minute here, the actual temperature anomalies for the month of November really mimic this pattern quite well so far this winter season. Of course, we're just moving into the winter season right now. Now, one thing we pointed out in the winter outlook is that it's a little bit harder to get strong coastal storms in a La Nina pattern. Typically, your blockbuster nor'easters or blockbuster coastal storms occur in El Nino winters, because El Nino, where there's warmer than normal sea surface temperatures off the west coast of South America in the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean, activates the southern branch of the jet stream, and that tends to increase the chances for strong coastal storms. Meanwhile, in a La Nina pattern, you typically have the northern branch as the most active branch, and that does bring in some cold air, certainly into the upper Midwest and northern plains, and oftentimes extending into the mid-Atlantic region. But it also kind of inhibits the chance for strong coastal storms. Doesn't mean it won't happen. Certainly there can be a strong coastal storm this winter, but the chances are less in a La Nina type of winter pattern. Well, take a look at this temperature anomaly chart for the month of November so far, and now we're 3 weeks into the month of November, and very typical of that La Nina pattern we just saw, with colder than normal conditions basically extending from Alaska across the southwestern part of Canada into the upper Midwest, and in this particular case all the way into the northeastern part of the U.S., with normally seen warmer than normal conditions in a La Nina winter across much of the southern U.S. So this has been the pattern. Looks like it'll continue to be the pattern for the next several weeks. Again, we have another 8 days to go for the month of November. It looks like we'll close out generally colder than normal. Doesn't mean every day in the I-95 corridor will be below normal. Saturday, for example, could be normal to above normal. But overall, the next week to 10 days or so looks like we'll continue to be below normal with additional cold air outbreaks. Again, one just moved into the region this morning, Wednesday morning. Another one, and a pretty impressive one, arrives Saturday night and will be way below normal again, temperature-wise, here in D.C., Philly, New York City on Sunday and Monday. Well, that temperature anomaly chart, by the way, was from Weather Bell Analytics. These particular maps are from tropicaltidbits.com, and we're looking at the GFS model run from last night's 6Z. And we'll just kind of go through the next several days to monitor this cold air outbreak and the next one coming this weekend. Again, this is early Wednesday morning forecast map. Some shower activity pushing off the mid-Atlantic coastline right now. The clouds out there this morning should give way to some sunshine by midday, and generally sunny skies this afternoon. Notice the isobar pattern here shaping up to produce some stiff north to northwest winds by midday and afternoon. Temperatures will not budge much from where they are this morning as colder air pours in, anchored by this high pressure out in the middle part of the country. Let's move forward here by this afternoon and then tonight. Basically a northerly flow of air pushing in colder air into the I-95 corridor. And Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, looks to be colder than normal. Certainly high temperatures confined to the 40s, probably the low to mid 40s in D.C., Philly, and New York City. Colder than normal for this time of the year. The winds will not be strong. They should lighten up during the day as this high pressure system moves on top of the region. Then as we move ahead into the day after Thanksgiving, shopping day, Black Friday, high pressure sitting right on top of the mid-Atlantic region. Not quite as cold as Thursday, but still a little bit cool for compared to normal for this time of the year. That then will shift off the coast by Saturday. And here we go, another cold frontal system starting to show up here over the upper Midwest Friday night. And Saturday will indeed be a little bit milder in the I-95 corridor. Temperatures back up in the 50s on Saturday. Relatively normal for this time of the year, maybe even a little bit above normal. Not much precipitation associated with this next frontal system, as is typical in a La Nina pattern. Not a lot of Gulf moisture or coastal moisture to get involved here. This next frontal system drops through the region on Saturday night. This is the forecast map for Saturday night. Another cold Canadian high across the northern plains. And here we go, by Sunday morning, cold Canadian high drops into the Midwest. Strong north to northwest winds here in the mid-Atlantic region. Again, colder than normal for Sunday and Monday, following the passage of the next cold frontal system around Saturday night or so. Again, winds will be strong on Sunday, then the typical pattern. They'll lighten up on Monday, still cold, then turn to a southwesterly direction on Tuesday. We'll warm up a little bit ahead of the next cold air outbreak, which will come later next week. So this is kind of a pattern, a La Nina type of a pattern. It looks like it'll continue right through the end of November with generally colder than normal conditions in the Mid-Atlantic region. And that kind of a pattern could extend well into the month of December. That's it for now. For VencoreWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.